Good evening, everyone. We are receiving more and more often the presence of our friends, beings of light. And it is a fact that these messages are being transmitted also on the spiritual plane. So the work is being disseminated not only on the material plane, but also on the spiritual plane. It is especially important that disclosure is made in all possible spheres for this work, as it is being done considering more than one brotherhood. I would say that it is an unprecedented work. To my knowledge, it is an unprecedented work. We are incredibly pleased with the way the previous session was done. Master Tanaka, the previous session was quite different because we made a unique communication with you human beings. But this was done through a combination of ideas from all of us, spirits of light. So instead of passing the word to the spirits of light, it was defined that through my channel, the information would be compiled and passed on to you human beings, gathering the knowledge of several members of several different brotherhoods of light. In practice, it is no longer necessary to pass the word to a spirit of light, as we were doing before. Through my voice, several energy channels are being consolidated and channeled through our friend channel. This represents the voice of all our beings of light who are participating in this session. It is a remarkably interesting procedure, very efficient and highly effective, and we hope it is done in all our sessions. So once again, we make ourselves available to all beings of light to define together the subject to be dealt with in this session. At this time, Master Tanaka, while you are listening to my voice, we, spirits of light, are here, shall we say, in council to define today's material. Today's subject will be about the influences of beings of the astral world on communication between beings of light and human beings. It is important that you know the mechanism of these influences, how they occur and why they occur, and how to prevent these actions from occurring in direct communication between light beings and human beings. As we have said on a few occasions, everything is relative. The frequency of energy that the human being is vibrating at that moment defines whether the beings of the astral world can interfere in communication. Therefore, it is particularly important that human beings now, when they want to establish contact with the beings of light, as it is being done at this time, for example, in this session, are in a state of grace, vibrating high-quality energies. In this way, beings of the astral world cannot interfere with our communication. For this, it is important that a whole preparation is done before opening the communication channel. It is important that a meditation or prayer be done so that the human being is at the highest possible vibrational frequency, as close as possible to us, spirits of light. From a certain frequency of energy, surely the beings of the astral world cannot capture and interfere in our communications. This is also true when you, through prayer, make any kind of petition to the beings of light. The higher the vibration is, the more likely it is for communication to happen between us. And in this way, one avoids the distortions that are frequent when opening a communication. It is common to see people praying but vibrating in a negative way. Then, instead of us answering, the beings of the astral world who vibrate at a lower frequency answer these prayers. Yes, this communication between the astral world and humans is possible, and they can harm humans. Often we see human beings seeking help for their problems in so-called spiritual spaces, and we see the astral world asking human beings for the most absurd things, and human beings in turn meet these requirements, and there is established an increasingly close connection, enabling the intervention of the beings of the astral world in the energy and life of these people. And this vicious cycle is making this communication increasingly narrower, and that is influencing human beings in an extremely negative way. To illustrate what we are saying, it is common to see human beings who depend on drugs, who have family problems, problems in employment, etc., seek help in so-called spiritual spaces. And the most they can get is a connection with the spirits of the astral plane. They are deceived, but they think they have been helped, that the experience was good. Other times, they do illicit things and go to the so-called spiritual spaces to ask the spirits for help. And these beings from another plane make bizarre solicitations for that request to be met, asking to do things for the astral world involving alcohol, death of animals, drugs such as smoking, cigars, candles, and various other things. It is important to warn everyone that never, ever, a being of light will ask for something in exchange for a desire to be fulfilled. We, beings of light, in the evolutionary degree we achieved, we need nothing, absolutely nothing from the material world. Of course, if we try to make any communication with human beings, it will always be with the greatest possible goodwill, in order to enable the spiritual evolution of the human being, and we never ask for anything in return. We respect those human beings who are willing to make sacrifices, as they are called there on the material plane, making promises to have your wishes fulfilled. But these promises only have meaning for the human being himself, not for us, beings of light. In our view, that is not necessary. We communicate with human beings and propose actions for their own evolution, so that we may be useful in their spiritual journey, and not to see the desire fulfilled, not to have the pleasure of seeing a promise fulfilled. That is not the reason why we communicate. Therefore, it is strongly advised that human beings do not meet these requests from the astral plane. These beings of the astral plane, however good-willingly, do not have the capacity, discernment, and knowledge to help any human being. It is like a 5-year-old child who wants to help a baby. That is the comparison we can make here. Is a 5-year-old child capable of helping a baby? Eventually, this child may even help, but it is not even close to being the most suitable for this action. Likewise, a being of the astral world also cannot help the human being. It is quite common, especially in the religions of the Eastern world, for human beings to ask for help from their loved ones who are gone, to father, to mother, to grandfather, to a friend. I tell you not to do that. I ask you, human beings, that requests be directed to us, spirits of light, to Jesus Christ, to Saint Germain, to Buddha, to beings of light. What is the point of that? The probability of a loved one who passed away a short time ago or who coexisted in the life of a human being to be in the spheres of the spirit world is quite small, is an exceedingly small probability. This is a brief explanation that might be the subject of a session of its own. But certainly, to reach the spiritual world, the human being who disincarnated a short time ago must perform various tasks, many actions until this human being can transmute to the energies of the spiritual plane. That is why we say it is exceedingly difficult for a father, a mother, a grandfather to be able to help a human being. Imagine a son asking for help with all his faith to his disembodied father. This father, wherever he is in the astral plane, gets distressed to see his son's problem and not being able to help him. Imagine the anguish of this father who is trying to climb ladders in the astral world, which is already very difficult, suddenly is also faced with his beloved son asking for help in the material world. Imagine the anguish of this father. Therefore, we strongly recommend that you, human beings, when you ask for help from the other planes, ask for help from the spiritual plane of light, not your relatives or your ancestors. I believe that this is especially important for everyone, especially human beings in the Eastern world, so connected to their ancestors. It is important to ask the help of the beings of light to act on the astral plane to help their ancestors. Yes, that is extremely useful. We, beings of light, as far as possible, are willing also to help the beings of the astral plane. It so happens that in many situations, the beings of the astral plane are in a degree, at a frequency so different from us that it does not allow us to help. Because of this low frequency, we are out of reach. Hence why, in some actions, we, spirits of light, must rely on you, human beings, who have a higher degree of energy so that we can perform some work in the astral world. Because alone, because of this difference in energy frequency, we cannot reach some points of the astral world, and you human beings can do that. That is why we count so much on the help of Master Tanaka, so that we can help the spirits that are in the astral plane. It is necessary that human beings are able to touch these beings of the astral world in order to elevate the energies of their being, so that we, beings of light, can act in these beings of the astral world. It is quite easy to communicate between us because Master Tanaka is already in a high degree of evolution and has a frequency of energy that greatly facilitates communication. Returning to the subject of beings of the astral world, there are several beings who are already in a degree of evolution that could be receiving our help, and even changing planes, climbing higher steps in the astral world, approaching themselves to the spiritual world. But some higher energy beings in the astral world prefer to continue there and work in a way that deceives humans, to deceive them for their own benefit in exchange for actions, in exchange for the possibility of extracting the energy of human beings, what we call vampirizing human beings. They are beings who are satisfied in the position they are. They know that greater spiritual evolution is possible, but they refuse to abide by the rules of good coexistence of the spiritual world. Evidently, the spiritual plane requires much righteousness in conduct. The beings of light are always being put to test. They are always being tempted to lower their degree, to lower their evolutionary frequency, in order to be the target of these spirits of the astral world. It is good that you know we are always getting frequent temptations. It must be said that some beings of light, few, but there are such cases, in which by not complying with the rules or by submitting to temptations, end up being demoted. Their energies are no longer compatible with the spiritual plane. This is possible. And these beings I mentioned, who have a higher degree of energy, but still dwell on continuing in the astral world, these beings get often confused, and they pretend to be beings of light, and many human beings cannot make that distinction. And many wrong, misguided actions are performed by human beings by the influence of these beings. Therefore, it is important that human beings always walk with integrity, so that their energies are compatible with those of the beings of light, and not with the ones of these other beings. I am here compiling also messages of beings of light of the Brotherhood of Umbanda, who comes to communicate to us that this, in fact, is quite common in so-called spiritual spaces, where many human beings allow themselves to be incorporated by beings from the astral plane, and these beings of the astral plane influence the lives of these people. Although these spirits of the astral plane achieved a different degree of evolution from ours, there are beings of goodwill who try to help human beings, but again, mentioning our example, are like children trying to help babies. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it does not. Another important information to mention is about invocations that are made through rituals, where human beings end up enabling astral beings to control the body of a human being. When this domain is made by beings of the astral plane, it is possible to verify the disrespect to the human body. It is possible to even happen in some cases aggressions to the body of the human being, causing the human being to drink large amounts of alcohol or cigarettes, in short, of things of the material world. It must be said that in these incorporations, beings of light are never present. A being of light will never subject the human body to aggression, ever. On the contrary, the few times this happens, it is to try to raise the energy of the human being by bringing him closer to the energies of the beings of light, so that communication is easier. So you must be incredibly careful when this happens, right? The being of light very rarely is incorporated into a human being, as is the case with our work. This work is a thorough work, which was planned in order to minimize all possible risks to our friend Channel and to Master Tanaka. Everything has been studied in detail, planned so that nothing bad happens to human beings involved in this work. So it is quite different from incorporations where we see the person who incorporates being physically assaulted in various ways by the action of the spirit. So you must be incredibly careful when attending these places and allowing these actions. It is particularly important to say this because this warning comes not only from us of the White Brotherhood, who are working for a long time with Master Tanaka, but also from other brotherhoods. It is information that, as we said in the beginning of this session, is being compiled considering the knowledge and ideas of various beings and several different brotherhoods. We are incredibly grateful for the presence of all. May you all have a good week. So be it. Thank God.